Having an exceptional relationship with your spouse affects every single aspect of your life and is crucial for experiencing your dream life together. I'm Rob Murgatroyd.
And I'm Kim Murgatroyd. Listen in on our honest, filter-free conversations as we navigate life and business together without killing each other.
You'll learn by osmosis how to transform the friction you feel in your relationship into a purposeful foundation that will allow you to grow together.
Welcome to the Friday Podcast.
Kim, giddy up, Murgatroyd. How are you?
Giddy up, Murgatroyd. Is that because we're talking about the Four Horsemen today?
We are talking about the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
Why does this sound like a doomsday presentation?
Because that's why John Gottman, and I am so sorry I don't remember his wife's name. So let me give you a bit of background first on John Gottman. And then we're going to talk about
Dr. John Gottman.
Dr. John, but he and I were buds. We know
you met each other once in the airport.
We saw each other in Boston?
One time in the airport.
Yeah, we were hanging out in Boston.
And he was terrified. I'm just kidding.
No, we were hanging out.
Hanging out in the line for Delta?
Together.
Because you were one behind each other?
I think, was his wife? Yeah, his wife was there too. We were all hanging out.
We were all hanging out.
Yeah.
You accosted them.
John Gottman is a researcher. He is not a marriage counselor. He is a researcher on marriage. I learned about him through watching a 60-minute episode about his love lab in Seattle. What is a love lab? A love lab is a place where couples go who are having some serious challenges in their relationship, and he can predict with a 98% accuracy whether or not you are likely to get divorced based upon nonverbal signals. And it's, when you first hear it, you're like, bullshit. Except for the fact that he's been documenting it in JAMA for the last 40 years, and his research is on point. Just Google it and you'll see it. But to give you an idea, his love lab is equipped with the following. The love lab is essentially an apartment in Seattle where you spend the weekend together. And over the course of the weekend, you are instructed to do certain things. And one of those things is to take a topic that is a hotly debated topic between you and your spouse. You know that thing, every time you and your spouse bring it up, it just never ends well. She has her point, you have your point, you're not moving, she's not moving, you try, she tries, but it's just fucking there.
And
right?
Someone ends up sleeping on the couch.
And somebody ends up, so you just have learned to not bring it up. You know that thing? He makes you bring that thing up. Okay. And when you bring that thing up, he has cameras that are trained on your pupils. He has a blood pressure cuff that is on both arms. He has a jiggleometer set in the seat to see how much movement you have. He's got a pulse ox on your fingertip. And he has a heart rate monitor to measure your heartbeat, and I think he's got a respiration monitor on you too. So you're fucking wired. You look like a cyborg in there. And you are sitting in two chairs and you face each other and you say, okay, let's bring up my mother-in-law. And you start, sorry, did I say that?
Is that my mother-in-law or your mother-in-law?
Did I say that? We actually don't have that issue because we both have challenges with our mother-in-laws. You get the idea. That's not our issue. But you bring it up and he records what you do. And over the course of that research, he has identified 4 things that he calls the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, meaning that there is an apocalypse by the time you get to the 4th one. So they are sequential. So what we're going to do today is we are going to describe each of these 4 horsemen.
And how you do them.
And how Kim does them. And you will see yourself in these 4 horsemen. You will see some times where you do it, and you'll see times when you don't.
Okay, hold on. On that note, it is really easy because we have done, somehow, I guess because we have a good relationship, we have a lot of friends that ask us relationship advice. And we've talked about these four horsemen with them. The natural inclination is when we give you the first one, you're going to go, oh yeah, they do that. Okay, here's the thing.
It's really funny. You're right. I never noticed that. Everybody does that. Oh, he does do that.
Because you defaulted and you were like, look, and you're going to see yourself in this. No, they're going to see their spouse in this.
Yeah, you're right.
I want you to not see your spouse. I want the lens that you listen to these Four Horsemen. I want the lens you look at it to be yourself, because you cannot, no matter how much you try, change your partner. You cannot criticize them into change. It doesn't work that way. You need to work on you. You can work on you. It's the only thing you have control over. So did I say you enough? Mm-hmm. When you hear these, look for where you fall in alignment with these. And Rob, I'm going to challenge us to each of these to do the same thing today.
Huh?
Okay.
You what?
I'm going to challenge us to do the same thing. So when we talk about these four horsemen, we're going to find out where we do this.
Oh yeah,
in our own.
I put a little K next to the ones that you do.
That's my point. That's my point. Right. You're doing the opposite. You're literally putting a K. You're putting a K next to the ones that I do. I'm saying you put an R.
Oh, I couldn't even hear that.
Oh,
you
my
want
God.
me to put my name on it?
All right, go
we're
ahead.
Going to start with number 1.
The Four Horsemen. First horseman.
The first horseman is, can you see that?
I have it on my phone.
Oh, okay. Why are you looking at mine?
I didn't know what you were doing.
Okay.
Thought you had something else.
I was trying to help you. Number 1, criticism. You never think about how your behavior, I'm going to just do the girl. You never think about how your behavior is affecting other people.
Why is there a nasal sound?
Because it's the same reason why
hold on. Can I do it? Why do you think your behavior?
Men,
these are the voices that we do.
Tell me if your wife ever, like when you're having an argument with your wife and she is repeating what you have said, will you come in here and you're like, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore. I don't want to do that. I'm going to. Have you ever spoken that way once in your life? Who, as Jerry Seinfeld said, he's part of his stand-up routine. Who is this guy? I've never met him. My wife seems to know him intimately, but I don't know who this man. Oh, why would you do that? You walk in, you're like, I'm never going to do that again. When the fuck did I turn into the Ghostbusters? What is this? Okay. Criticism. You never think about how your behavior is affecting other people. I don't believe, I just think you are forgetful. You never think of others. You never think of me.
All right, you just messed that whole thing up. So this is, you didn't read it right.
You just made the fifth horseman. Correcting somebody on the podcast is horseman number 5.
Well, autocorrect, horseman number 5. These are examples of what criticism. We all know what criticism is. This is an example of criticism.
You literally just criticized me explaining the definition of criticism.
I did.
This is clearly what you do. Okay, so strike 1 for you. Okay, we haven't even gotten this horseman 2, 3, or 4. You failed the first one. You criticized me explaining criticism.
What are you doing right now?
Why are you criticizing me saying criticism?
What are you doing right now? Are you criticizing me, criticizing you about the criticism?
All right, horseman number 1 is criticism. We all know what criticism is. Stop criticizing your partner.
No, but it's not just that. So what it said here, it's something like, I don't believe you're just forgetful. I think you're selfish. Like things like that. You never think of others. You never think of me. And turning their words and actions into the one for me that I thought was really good is that I don't believe you're just forgetful. I believe you're selfish. It's kind of like, years ago, this is a good one. And I'll bring you back to this, Rob. We were walking across the street. We were living in Atlanta. We were walking across the street to go to our favorite Friday night place at the time, Twist. And we were talking about sometimes when a man or a woman, doesn't matter, is building something or climbing a new hill, there's a learning curve for them. And they have to go into a bit of a cave, and maybe their daily routine is off. Maybe they're pulled away from the family a bit more. And that I felt that it was my job as your partner to support your going into that cave and building something new, even if it took away from the family, as long as you had the understanding that this is a temporary thing, you can't go in there forever. And when you come back out, you're going to be a better husband, dad, business owner, and all of that. Do you remember this conversation we had? I think I've watched my friends' spouses go into that same, like, climbing a new hill cave. Let's say you want to start a new business. Let's say you want to start an ebook business, and you buy an ebook course on how to create an ebook business, and you are working a day job and you need to do this course, and then you need to take action. There's going to be a shift in your schedule. You're not going to be able to have, there's only 24 hours a day. And if you're working 9 to 5, and then you need to take the course, and then you need to take action on the course so you can build that next dream, it's very easy for the spouse to begin to criticize and say, you know, you're not building something else. You just want less time with the family, or why aren't you pulling your weight around here? And that's where that criticism comes in. So it's not just like naggy criticism. I think that there are times where what they're doing, what the partner is doing, is they're trying to spin a lot of plates. They're trying to sit their ass on multiple horses. Maybe they're trying to better the family, better themselves, or whatever. Like, I remember I had a friend who, her husband wanted to go to bed early so he was rested and could wake up and do a good morning routine. And she was furious because she wanted to watch whatever TV show at 11 p.m. and she's more of a night owl.
How are they doing now?
Divorced. So my point is, it's like, and I remember she used to call me and I can't believe, like, this is our only time together to watch TV, and now he wants to go to bed early so he can do a morning routine. And I'm going, oh my God, he wants to better himself, and you're criticizing him for wanting to better himself. And so I want to put a little color on how I think our audience can apply this, because criticism just sounds like a nag. But sometimes what they're doing to better themselves or the family is going to take away from your relationship for a minute.
And they're critiquing it.
And they're critiquing it, right?
Number 2, contempt. When we communicate in this state, we are truly mean. We treat others with disrespect. We mock them with sarcasm, ridicule, call them names. We mimic them. We use body language like eye rolling.
I'm getting a little hot over here.
The target of contempt is made to have the other person feel despised or worthless. Okay, so let me give you an example. Let's say that somebody says, "Oh, I got a new idea for a new business." And their partner rolls their eyes and goes, "Oh, another one?" That's contempt. Why don't you give another example of contempt?
Yeah. So years ago, Rob was bored in his office. We were trying to figure out an exit strategy for him, and he was just bored. So we thought if he had something that lit him up outside of the clinic, like a hobby, that it would work out and he would be happier and more fulfilled. And so we went to Europe one summer and he watched DJs play, and he came home and he said, "I think I want to learn how to DJ. Like, I don't want to be a DJ, but I love music and I love how they can beat match and make a new sound." And he was just curious about it. Now, he was like 45. He had a full-time job. We were trying to have a baby, we had a teenager. We had a second job. We were sitting our ass on 2 horses at the time. I could have easily looked at him and went, "Dude, you're 45 and you want to fucking DJ?" But I didn't, right? I am contemptuous. I'm going to say this one is definitely in my nature to fall into, and I hate that about myself. And I try to work on it as much as I can. I think I've gotten better. I'm not perfect. But if I was contemptuous in that, I'd be like, "Oh, so 5 years ago you wanted to be a fitness model. Now you want to be a DJ. What are you going to be in another 5 years? A sculptor?" Like, that's contempt.
It was very Florence of you.
I know. That's where I went.
That's exactly contempt. I can't say it any better than that. All right. So think about this as a
Waterfall.
As a waterfall, right? You start
where the basin is divorce.
Yeah, exactly. So you start with, okay, he's actually a little critical, he's just a little critical. Contempt, he's like starting to like roll his eyes when I say something. It's kind of like it makes me feel like he hates me, like he's so disrespectful. It's like he's sarcastic. He's just like scoffing at me, right? The third one, defensiveness. That's not what I said. Why didn't you do that today? I was busy. Didn't you see I was busy? You could have just did it yourself. You know what defensiveness is. Once you start moving into that stage, it's like somebody says something to you and your response is a defensive response. It's not hearing them. It's not saying, like we use the example, like, why didn't you do this today? Why, you were supposed to go to the dry cleaner. Why didn't you? One answer could have been, God, I'm sorry. I know I promised I was going to do that, but my day just got away from me. I'll make sure that happens tomorrow. I know I told you I would do it. Versus the opposite of, did you see my schedule today? Do you have any idea what I have? So I can like literally hear myself in that.
I was like, I think you said that yesterday.
Mm-hmm. So you will come in and out of these. Sometimes you'll be defensive. Sometimes you won't. The point is, are you living in criticism, contempt, and or defensiveness?
And you know that you're living in defensiveness when, like, again, another friend who everything that she did, she had to defend. Like she got to a point where it was like if she went to Target, had to defend it. If she walked outside, she had to defend it. On and on. Every single thing she wanted to do, everything she was doing, she felt as if she had to defend everything. Even if it was a curious question. Like I know we've all been in a situation, like I'll come to Rob and let's say he had a really busy day and the busy day is a good one. And I'll be like, hey, did you grab wine? Oh my God, no. Did you see my day? You know that I was back to back to back to back to back. That's defensive because what that person is feeling is accusatory on the other side. Even if it wasn't accusatory, they're feeling it because maybe on the other side, you had already criticized them for not getting things done, or you had rolled your eyes at them for not getting things done. And so they already feel the need to be defensive. So if someone says to you consistently, if your spouse consistently says to you, why are you so defensive? You're most likely being defensive. But that doesn't mean, for me, I don't think it means that you're the problem. I think it means that you need to look at these other two, contempt and criticism. You're probably being defensive because you're probably continually criticized. And remember that you can only look at your own role in the marriage. The moment you look at the other person and you go, let me tell you the list where you're fucking up, that's criticism. So if you and your partner truly want to get better at marriage, you have to do this together and you have to do it on your own. Rob makes a list of where he's criticizing, contemptuous, defensive. I do the same. And once you identify it, it's like shaking the cockroaches out, right? You lift the carpet and all the cockroaches run. Once you identify, oh, I'm criticizing him, the next time it goes to escape out of your mouth, you think twice. Maybe it escapes and you immediately apologize because you caught yourself versus him having to call you out on it later.
Or you do it, you realize you did it, and you stop doing it anymmore.
Right. And
like you can just keep it. If you're pissed at the other person, you can keep it to yourself, but just know, like, oh shit, I just was really a dick there. I was being critiquing. I was critiquing. I was being criticizing. I was being criticizing. I was criticizing. I was being. How do you be criticized?
Are you being criticized or are you criticized?
I was being critical. I was being critical.
I
was being critical. Yeah. That's what it is. All right. Number 4, stonewalling. So for those of you that are playing the home game, number 1, criticism. Number 2, contempt. Number 3, defensiveness. And number 4, stonewalling.
That's going to be the new voice I use for you. I'm going to use your podcaster voice when I use the guy voice.
Stonewalling occurs when the listener withdraws from the interaction, shuts down, and simply stops responding to their partner. All right, this is the bad one. This one, in my experience, you don't necessarily go, like if you're in this more than once or twice a year, there's probably a problem. So I remember in my first marriage that I might as well have been a block of stone. I had absolutely no interest in criticizing her, being contemptuous towards her, or being defensive with her. I just didn't want to be with her, okay? So I literally would allow whatever she'd say, when this is at the end of the marriage, obviously, whatever she would say, I'd be like, okay, yeah, no problem. No problem.
Your bathroom that you built in the house is a physical example of stonewalling.
I was at the point in my marriage where I was stonewalling so much that I didn't want my bathroom sink to be next to her bathroom sink. So I had the builder build me a sink in the closet because my walk-in closet was a closet off of the bathroom. I had him build me a sink in the closet so that I can go into the closet and close the door. So I didn't have, it was a fucked up marriage.
But look at that though, because when something goes so far,
you withdraw.
You literally withdraw. What's another example? People that for non-medical reasons or whatever, that move into a different bedroom, maybe to sleep at night. Or there are things that happen in stonewalling where it starts with, or sure. And it starts with not getting back. It's kind of like, I've had friends do this too, where they are yelling, let's imagine the woman is yelling at the guy about the thing, whatever the thing is that she's criticizing him and being contemptuous. And instead of his reaction on being defensive, which he probably was for a long time, he shuts down and just goes, okay. And that's it. And she's not getting the fight back anymore. That's where you hit stonewalling. That's where you're done for. As they say.
It's the fourth horseman of the apocalypse, and it is the step right before divorce. So what he was able to do, I'll bring this back full circle before we wrap. What he was able to do was he was able to listen to these couples have this interaction with each other, talking about a heated topic, and see, are they going into these horsemen, criticism, contempt, defensiveness, stonewalling? Like, was she just going on and on, blah, 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 blah? And he's like, Or were they engaging in conversation that was void of criticism, contempt, or defensiveness? And if they were, they had a really, really good shot of making the marriage work. If there was a point in the conversation where he went into stonewalling, where he was just sitting there staring, through her, over her, around her, nodding his head, not engaging, the chances of them moving towards divorce incrementally goes up percentage-wise.
Now, we learned about Gottman early in our relationship. We were not even married yet. And we both listened to a book, I think, on the Four Horsemen from John Gottman. And we learned about it and we talked about it. And we did it in kind of the honeymoon. Rob and I did a lot of personal development in the honeymoon period of our relationship because we both came out of divorce. And we wanted to have the tools in our toolbox that would be able to allow us to thrive and communicate and not get divorced. Because it's not about if you're going to have problems, it's about how do you react to them when they happen.
I'll tell you something interesting, and I'll be careful not to disclose any particular person. One of my coaching clients who is in a relationship, things are going really, really great. And so I am on the lookout for these four horsemen. So I am always taking a check under the hood about little nuances, like is there any criticism happening? No. Do you feel any? And as these things start to come up, I am able to make once you have an awareness, if you know that criticism is one of 4 steps to divorce, and you are in a relationship where criticism is happening, and you want that relationship to last, then you'd be a fucking idiot if you don't figure out how to stop that behavior. So as a coach, I am constantly checking under the hood and the reason why I brought this up was you mentioned honeymoon stage.
Yeah.
When a relationship is new, people are in the honeymoon stage.
And this is the time to learn.
Well, when you're in the honeymoon stage, you're
not doing any of
you're
these.
You're covered in hormones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're
16 again.
You're at 16. You're in lust. You're screwing like rabbits all over the place.
But once you start leaving the cap off the toothpaste,
then you start going into these horsemen.
But you and I learned about these early on and were able to identify them in ourselves. Or one thing that I really value in our relationship is, like I said, it's not if you're going to have issues, it's how do you handle them when you do. And so I can see when Rob gets defensive, and I can look at it and go, okay, he's defensive about his schedule. You brought that one up earlier that you feel like you say that. So I'm using that one. You get defensive about his schedule. Instead of me going back with criticism and going, oh, you think you're the only one, which I have done. But instead of doing that, when my head is calm, I can look and go, okay, he's overwhelmed. What is he overwhelmed about? And I let him go off into his office, do his journaling or whatever he needs to do, give him a glass of wine, let the dust settle. And then usually he comes back around because he knows these horsemen and he knows he's being defensive. And he comes back around and he'll say, I'm really sorry I was a dick today. I had a lot of things on my plate. These things didn't go right. This frustrated me and I took it out on you and I apologize. And it's not that you can't get defensive. It's not that you can't have a criticism or it can't be where you live in your relationship. You're going to have these things happen. It's how you handle when they do.
I'll tell you what it's like for me. It's like if you look down at the scale and the number is really high, well, you got some feedback that you've been eating too many cookies, right? If you start to step into one of these four horsemen, you're getting feedback and go, oh shit, I'm doing that thing and I don't want to do that thing. Now that you know these four horsemen, you can't fucking unhear it.
But here's the thing, and here's where I can hear the audience right now grumble and go, oh, okay, but if he keeps doing the same fucking thing, how am I supposed to get it through to him without criticizing?
I know the answer. You do? Yeah. You both get on the same page and you read the same book.
Right.
So we haven't even talked about that. Let's tell them what the book is.
Well,
Tell them what the book is.
We will. But that wasn't my point. My point is, let's say that your spouse is doing something nonstop that is driving you nuts. And you're saying, okay, you want me to not criticize. How do I not criticize? You come up with another way. You come up with a calm way. What I think is the most beneficial, to be honest, and I'm about to have this conversation with my family soon, is about not to react in the moment they do something, because that's where criticism happens, right? Let's say you have a spouse that constantly adds garbage on top of garbage. And so the garbage can no longer closes, it's overfilling, but they don't take the garbage out. For me, if the top doesn't close, that's my sign that the garbage has to go out. Mm-hmm. But if you have the spouse that keeps overfilling it and shoving more things in and doesn't take it out, instead of watching them overfill it and snapping and criticizing them, in a non-reactionary way, at a different time, hey, I noticed that the garbage is not getting emptied consistently. We seem to be overfilling it, and then the dog gets into it, and all these things happen. How can we get this accomplished so it doesn't get overfilled? And you can have a conversation in a kinder tone, not immediately when it happened, not in a reactionary state, because let's be honest, a lot of these little things about living together are not a big deal.
Do we have a garbage thing?
No, I used a friend's
example.
Sure?
Because now I'm really thinking, I'm going through my head about the garbage.
There's no garbage.
I try and take it out.
You actually throw it out ahead of time. This is not you.
Am I overachieving?
You're overachieving in the garbage area. But my point is to have the conversation not in the moment, to have the conversation over a glass of wine. Treat the issue with the level of intensity of the issue. Like, people get into knockout, drag out battles about the garbage because it's not about the garbage. It's about 400 other things. Oh, you know what? This is really good. So I was reading this book from James Sexton, who's a New York divorce attorney, and his book is called If You're in My Office, It's Too Late. Okay? The book is hysterical. If you download this on audio, he reads it and he tells you stories of his divorces, but through the stories, you hear anecdotes and you hear suggestions and strategies to not get into these situations.
Skip to the penis story. Go right to the penis story.
Yeah, there's a really funny story in there. One of his things I think is actually really great, and it's called hit send now. Hit send now is, let's use the garbage, okay, as the issue. You have an agreement and an awareness with your spouse that when they see an email that says in the subject line, hit send now, that they know something is in that email that is bothering you, and to open it when they have a calm, clear head and they have time to process. This is something that you do in advance, right? You agree on this. You don't blindside them with an email complaining. And you send them an email and say, "Dear Rob, I love you so much. However, you keep overfilling the trash and our dog keeps getting into it and it creates a mess, and then I have to mop the floor and it's super frustrating to me. Is there any way that if you notice that the lid can't close, you can just simply take the trash out? Let me know how I can help in this." And that way Rob gets this email, he can digest it, he can understand it, and then he can come back with a clear head and you guys can find a solution. So I do love that hit send now to have these kind of smaller issues stay at the level that they are meant to be at and not pile on top of each other. So the cap's off the toothpaste and now you're divorcing.
It's good. And you can hide behind the keyboard too if you're afraid of your wife.
And you can hide behind, you're a troll behind the keyboard.
All right. So listen,
yeah.
The book is called The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work by John M. Gottman. All right. Our work is done here. Go forth and serve the Lord, my children. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye. Have you ever made a vision board by cutting out pictures of the beach house you wanted, the Ferrari, maybe even put your head on top of the dream body that you cut out, and then maybe you cut out some words like abundance that looks like Jeffrey Dahmer wrote it from prison?
And then you hung it in your bathroom or maybe your closet, only to find it a few months later covered in dust behind the dresser. Yeah, that doesn't work because you're missing the most important part, the vision.
So over the last 5 years, we've created and manifested multiple visions and have gone from working 12-hour days in our physical business that no longer excited us to living the life of our dreams every day.
Using our simple exercises and effective manifestation processes, we've sold our business that was no longer inspiring, created 5 new streams of income that we love, and moved our family to live the life of our dreams in Florence, Italy.
The Ultimate Vision Board course for couples will get you and your partner on the same page with undeniable clarity in your vision together and help you manifest your dream life. Check out the link in the description to learn more.